One word that entered the vocabulary of everybody during the Australia-India series, including those that are not die-hard followers of the game, this blog is really aimed at you, was umpire's call. I mean, a lot of us are sitting in the studio, every time the appeal went up, every time we did that, we said, umpire's call. And inevitably it was umpire's call. Why were there so many? My instinct tells me it's because there were 3 reviews this time. During COVID times, you got home umpires, so 3 reviews, many more reviews, you're getting many more umpires calls. But let me explain to you very quickly what umpire's call means and what the ball tracking technology does. So we have what we call the wicket zone. And the ball, for a batsman to be out, the ball has to hit the wicket zone. The wicket zone is the outside of the off stump, the outside of the leg stump, the base of the stump, and the lower part of the bail. There's a dark line that's drawn sometimes, as you will see. That is the base of the bails, not the top of the bails, the base of the bails. That is the wicket zone. If 50% of the ball is hitting the wicket zone, then you're out. How do you know 50% of the ball is hitting the wicket zone? That is when you have the ball tracker. The ball tracker can be either Hawkeye, as is used in most cases, or Virtual Eye, as was used in Australia. Hawkeye is a system of 6 locked-off cameras, often with a resolution as high as 300 frames a second. That's why it's expensive. 300 frames a second. It produces a composite picture. The composite picture allows you to generate a path. The path is computer generated because the moment the ball hits the pad, there is nothing else to go with. For the cameras, the game is over. There is an obstruction. What would have happened if there was no obstruction? That is a simulation. That is what the computer generates based on the composite picture of these 6 cameras. Now, the higher the resolution, the greater the number of points that you get. The greater the number of points, as you've done in physics when you were at school, the more points you have, the more accurate is your curve. Sometimes, if your cameras are not as high resolution, sometimes on Virtual Eye, for example, they use match cameras which are not the same resolution, then you have fewer points to plot the graph. I mean, in the days gone by, before very high-end Hawkeye cameras came around or high-end locked-off cameras came around, the match cameras used to be 25 to 50 frames per second. And so several times, you didn't actually get the precise frame at which the ball was landing on the ground. More important, you didn't get the precise frame at which the ball was hitting the pad where the obstruction came into being and the projection started. Most notably, that incident that some of my friends in Pakistan still talk about, the 2011 Tendulkar dismissal of Ajmal, the precise point at which the ball hit the pad, there was no frame there because the camera resolutions, it was one of those in-between frames. And so they had to create a virtual contact point and then build the ball tracker from there. Though the Hawkeye is still telling us it was right and you've got to go, you've got to believe them. But that is what happened on that day. Now, what happens with umpire's call? Earlier, if you remember, the wicket zone was half the off stump to half the leg stump because there was a margin of error in the ball tracker. Now, as the ball tracking becomes more sophisticated, they have expanded the wicket zone from the outside of the off stump to outside of the leg stump, but half the ball is still a reflection of the margin of error that there is. And so they say half the ball has to be hitting some part of the stump to overturn an umpire's decision. So, and this is the point I struggle to explain to most people, if the umpire says out, then any bit of the ball hitting the stumps is good enough because you want to go with the umpire's decision and you think that is good enough. But if the umpire says not out, that is where the margin of error comes in once again. More than half the ball has to be hitting the stumps. But even more important, as you saw in one of the games in Australia, we're all sitting there watching and saying, wow, the ball's banging, literally forcing its way into the bails, and it was not out because 50% of the ball has to hit the bottom of the bail. So you could have 75% of the ball hitting the top of the bail, that would still be not out because 50% of the ball has to hit the base of the bail. So this is how all science is established. This is how protocols are established. My view is as ball tracking gets more and more sophisticated, we will reach a stage where we can do away with umpire's call because it's so difficult to explain to the layman, to the consumer who is at the core of our game, just what umpire's call is. I mean, there's some umpires who already come out and said, do away with umpire's call. And there's some people on the technical side that I've worked with who are actually saying, look, it's very easy to measure what percentage of the ball is hitting the stump. So just say 50% of the ball is hitting the stump, it's out. If less than 50% of the ball is hitting the stump, not out. It'll add to drama as well. As soon as the ball grazes the stump, you're all waiting to see what the percentage is coming up. 48% not out, 51% out. It'll just simplify everything. But I'm telling you this now, I think the days of umpire's call will be numbered, either because of greater sophistication of Hawkeye or simply because we'll say, listen, we're just finding it very difficult to explain why the same thing is out once and the same thing is not out once. So that is the ball tracker. Do keep in mind that the ball tracker, much like Snicko, is constructed. So you have the point where the point of impact is constructed by a human being, and then the ball tracker is built based on that.